11.8 million gallons of brine have been spilled in North Dakota between 2006 and 2014, according to a New York Times article posted in November of 2014. And the number of spills is only continuing to grow. This map illustrates just how many spills have occurred and the vast amount of land that has been contaminated.
The recent oil boom has brought along with it brine. And brine is a liquid which is brought to the surface with the extraction of oil and is composed of high concentrations of salt, radioactive compounds, metals, and other toxic substances.
Because of this, brine spills cause nearly irreparable harm to our state's land. In order to protect our invaluable prairies and farmland, which plays a large role in our economy, we need to address this issue. Since we are environmentally conscious residents of the state, we've taken an interest in the issue and have read a variety of sources to become informed on the topic.
As residents of North Dakota, we should request our legislators to take action against brine spills because they are detrimental to our state. Now today we are going to share with you one cause and two effects of brine spills, as well as two ways to address this issue. Now here's Brianna with one of the main causes of brine spills.
Many of these brine spills occur because North Dakota has a gentle penalization policy, which is not to fulfill its intended purpose of preventing negligent behavior, which then in turn creates spills. The agencies responsible for supervising oil companies, the North Dakota Industrial Commission and the State Health Department, rarely pursue formal complaints when a spill occurs. And when they do, they typically settle for only 10% of assessed penalties, as noted by the New York Times. Noted by the same article, in 2011, Petro Harvester, an oil company, spilled on Daryl Peterson's property. This Antler, North Dakota farmer now has 24 acres of land and 10 ponds contaminated by brine. And to this day, no penalty has been given to Petro Harvester and he has not been compensated. Because companies are not penalized, they often cut corners when handling brine. As reported by the Dickinson Press, some companies illegally dump brine alongside roads in order to avoid the expense of hauling it to a disposal site. Also, one witness caught a company's workers trying to cover up a spill by pouring gravel on it. In addition, Lynn Helms, the director of North Dakota's Mineral Resources, said only a quarter of brine lines are actually monitored by the companies, and they happen to be the leading source of these spills. Now, Brittany will discuss how the lack of penalization and negligence is leading to devastating effects.
Because brine is toxic, it negatively affects our land, water, and wildlife. Larry C. Hosick, an NDSU soil professor, reported to the Dickinson Press that the salt within the brine creates a layer in the soil which prevents water from actually reaching the plants. The town of Smackoverfield, Arkansas, was exposed to frequent brine spills, and according to the Environmental Geosciences Journal, this has caused the area to have a lack of aquatic life and vegetation, significant soil erosion, and scars in the landscape that will last for decades. Therefore, our state's agricultural industry is adversely impacted by the contamination of farmland. According to the news network Al Jazeera, Abotno County farmers' 80 acres of land that was contaminated from brine spills 50 years ago will still not produce crops today. Contamination of farmland can also hinder a farmer's ability to sell their property. Thus, farmers may become stuck and suffer financially. To stop brine spills, we have two ways to address them. Now here's Brianna with one preventative measure.
In order to deter oil companies from negligent procedures which lead to severe brine spills, North Dakota should adopt a stricter penalization policy. Currently, there is no minimum penalty in place for a spill, but there is a maximum, so oftentimes penalties aren't even given. We suggest that a $5,000 minimum penalty be established for every offense because leniency is doing little to deter companies from more spills. Strict penalties have proven to be effective, like in one of the unique times where a substantial fine was imposed to a minor driver who illegally dumped brine along a road. According to Al Jazeera, the practice of illegally dumping brine has decreased as a result. If companies are punished, they are more likely to closely monitor their pipelines and engage in cautious behaviors. Next, Brittany is going to present our cleanup method.
North Dakota should also mandate the use of halophyte bioremediation to help clean up brine spills. Halophytes are plants that grow in areas with high concentrations of sodium, making them prime candidates for the extraction of brine. According to the Journal of Applied Ecology, the use of halophytes is 15% more effective than leaching, an alternative method commonly used which just dilutes the soil. As reported by the same journal, halophytes can also return the soil to a state in which it can produce crops. It can also improve aesthetics, reduce soil erosion, and diminish the amount of salt entering into our streams. Now you know one of the main causes of brine spills, how they affect our state, and two ways this issue could be better addressed.
As you can see, brine spills are posing a threat to North Dakota's well-being. The spills can widely be attributed to the lack of penalization companies receive when they do spill. Due to the toxic nature of brine, it scars the land and our agricultural industry. A stricter penalization policy should be established, and modified bioremediation should be utilized in order to prevent and treat these spills sufficiently.
So, to put a stop to brine spills from further damaging our state, we ask you to take a few minutes to write our legislators and urge them to enact our proposed solutions. If we do not adequately address this issue, the future of our state could likely be unrecognizable. And when the state's oil boom ceases to fuel the state, North Dakota could be left with an unsupported economy and lifeless prairies.